Um, Hello everyone. On behalf of Sustainability Reporting Standards Board of ICAI, I, CA Maitri Kishore Gada, extend a warm welcome to all of you to the 19th session of a webinar series, Demystifying Sustainability, Catalyzing Growth. Today's session is centered around a critical theme, sustainable supply chain, due diligence and transparency. We are honored to have with us our esteemed speaker, CA Sarika Gosainji. CA Sarika Gosainji, she's a CA and CS and also hold a diploma in IFRS from ACCA UK and in BRSR from ICAI. She has got around 22 years of post qualification experience. Currently, she is heading the firm ESG and sustainability practice and also leads the technical function. Her past experience includes servicing large clients in the areas of audit, accounting, and advisory. On professional front, she has co-authored two books and also speaks on multiple forums. She also keeps taking up various projects with ICI and is a part of group of ESG committees. Now I welcome CA Sarika Gosain and hand over to her. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome and giving the nice introduction. And I welcome everybody. As you rightly said, it's a very important topic. Hope I am audible. And because it's a really bad weather out here in Gurgaon, I'm speaking from Gurgaon. This area is almost flooded. My society never had that much of water. I saw it for the first time in my life for last 8 years. So if because of the network issues or something, I'm disconnected. I'll rejoin back again. So apologies for today. I was trying to get a stable network, but nowhere I could get that. So I hope so far I'm visible. So apologies in advance if I get disconnected, but I'll be back soon.
So today's sorry for the interruption. Our chairperson will be joining shortly.
Okay. Yeah. So should I wait for her or shall I continue?
2 minutes.
Should I wait?
Yeah, ma'am. We can wait for 2 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, actually, our chairperson will be joining shortly. She joined, but there was some network error. She is trying it again. So we will just wait for 1 minute more. Sarika ma'am, I guess there are some network issues from ma'am side. We can start. And in between, we can have an interruption when if ma'am joins.
No problem. So we had just started that this is a very significant topic in today's era because any company, any organization cannot work without any supply chain mechanism, be it upstream or downstream. We cannot think of any business operations and functionality. If we even forget about ESG, we talk about profitability, we talk about stakeholders engagement. The entire ecosystem is incomplete without supply chain. So we call supply chain, we call value chain, we call blockchain. There are different terminologies and words what we use. So today's session is focused on understanding what are value chain partners, so-called supply chain partners, what is their importance in terms of supply chain reporting in the sustainability reporting, etc., and how the companies have to rope in the sustainability partners, which are the supply chain partners, into their sustainability journey. And to get that, how they will do the due diligence, what are the mandates of having that due diligence in place, what are the disclosure requirements, how the transparency would work without having the green washing in place. We will discuss everything. So just allow me to share my screen. Let me know if my screen is visible, and that too in presentation mode.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah. So please stop me if you feel there is a network issue anytime, and I will be back, or I'll disable my video to save the bandwidth.
Sure, ma'am.
So in today's session, we will be first discussing what is sustainability, because the entire concept emerges from concept which is sustainability very briefly. Then we will understand about what are value chain partners, what are supply chain partners. Then we will understand the type of the supply chain partners, how these are structured, and how these are connected with the organization. Then we will understand where the requirements to have the data collection methodology for value chain partners or supply chain partner comes in, either through some regulations or through other mandate. What are the ways and means to do it? Who are the stakeholders which are aligned or which are responsible to have this that in place? What are the challenges from the company side, and what are the challenges from the value chain partners to have in place all these requirements in place? Then last but not the least, we will discuss what are the practical possibilities or the ray of hopes for supply chain partners to start their journey, to align, to pace up. And the most important thing, which I have kept for last, which is the role of chartered accountants into this entire conversation of ours. I have been practicing financial accounting, and since I'm a company secretary as well, and therefore the compliance part, and together the mix of it for last 23 years, I have now practicing equally ESG for a couple of years now. I started my journey with doing the BRSR course from ICI. Thanks to Sanjeev sir for guiding me and showing me the path for the same. And that's where my journey started. And trust me, chartered accountants are, if not the best place, but one of the best set of people who can take the ESG journey of the corporates, of the value chain people and the partners, and they can really help them, because we have already deep dived into the financial and the compliance part of it. If we understand the E part of ESG, nobody other than us can be the best advisors to the corporates. And that's what I have felt, I have done. And why I'm able to tell you confidently, because I've been doing it. I've been the advisor partner for large sized companies, and what I'm sharing today is not theoretical. The entire presentation is curated based on the practical aspects what I have undergone, and that's my commitment that after 1.5 hours or so, uh, there will be a lot of take home, but the only commitment which I need from your side is your attention, is your time, is your focus. So let's start. So, what is sustainability? People believe that sustainability is a new concept, which is not. That took birth in 1987 with the Brundtland report, which said that sustainability is nothing but meeting today's need without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet the needs, their needs. So, sustainability takes very different color for everybody. I am sustainable here if I'm able to engage you for next 1.5 hours. You are sustainable at workplace if you are able to meet the requirements of the organization or the jobs which are given. You are sustainable on road when you are able to drive well, you are able to safeguard yourself, you are able to safeguard the others. So, sustainability, or rather, business sustainability, what we are talking today, is a very vast subject matter which we need to understand. And why we are understanding sustainability? Because the sustainability or the business sustainability of an organization really depends upon how much sustainable their supply chain is. Because if the company has the orders in hand to cater to, but they do not have the equivalent amount of the raw material and other services what are required to make those products, the company gets failed, no matter how much orders they have. Similarly, if the company has a raw material or the other products which are required to manufacture company's product, if they do not have the customers to buy for, entire labor operation goes for haste. Therefore, it is very, very important to have a seamless supply chain or a sustainable supply chain. And therefore, the concept of sustainability has to be well understood. ESG is picking up very significantly these days, and that too as a riskier area. And this I am not telling, this is the part of the World Economic Forum report, where the ESG risks are identified not only in short term but in long term as well. Therefore, the companies have started rebuilding their risk assessment processes and have started embedding the ESG risk not only for the companies but for their value chains as well, right from day one. And if that is not done, the companies would not be able to be successful in long run. The methodology for today's session, what we have designed is, we'll keep finishing one segment. And in case you have any questions, please pass on to the moderators. Keep writing in the chat box or whatever the manner you have been provided. We'll stop in between. We'll try to take up a few. If there are more questions, we'll park it for the end. Trust me, I'll try to address all of your queries. If something remains unaddressed or I am not capable of doing so, post the session, I'll do my research and get back to ICI and they will pass on those answers to you. Because ESG is not a single short subject. It's the journey, it's ocean. It has everything. This is the biggest subject matter on the earth, which one can study as a curriculum. So moving ahead, we spoke about risk, and therefore it is very, very important to embed the risk strategies and revising the risk strategies again to inbuilt ESG in every process of the organization. Just like financial reporting, non-financial reporting is also gearing up, and companies are being assessed based on the ESG maturity of the organizations or its peers, how much they are resilient towards the risk, how much they are outcome oriented and efficient in terms of their ESG objectives, whether the key focus areas of the company are towards ESG alongside with others, or it's only financial aspects related, or what is the company's progress towards ESG initiative, and very, very important aspect, benchmarking of the organization with themselves as compared to the previous period and with others in the same industry or sector. So earlier, non-financial reporting was not that important for a couple of reasons. It was not prevalent, it was not regulated, it was not required. But nowadays, they are taking front seat. I would not say that financial aspects are taking back seat, but they are equating in terms of importance when it comes to understanding the organization, taking any business activity with an organization. If a company is good in financial numbers, profit, EBITDA, and all, but they're not good in their non-financial performance and numbers, the company would not go very long in their journey as far as the business is concerned. Therefore, we as chartered accountants, it is imperative now to equally understand the non-financial aspects of ESG, because those two are now brothers or sisters and have to go hands on hands. I recently had a very specific session for the board of directors of a company, of a listed company, where they wanted to understand how to read and understand any company's ESG report, especially BRSR report, so that they are able to find out if there is any inconsistency between the audited financial statements, director's report, and BRSR or other ESG parameters what they publish. While the company's board, audit committee, and other employees are being vigilant about it, we as chartered accountants should also be very, very vigilant about it. And we have to start understanding these non-financial parameters, data, and the sustainability reports. Now, coming to the main topic of today, what is supply chain? We understand supply chain with a different name as well, which is value chain also, and how the sustainability report brings all these into their embed. Because if something is not required for us to report, we will not report. However, this concept and their functionalities, their disclosures are so embedded in the company's operation, are so connected with the sustainability reports of any organization, any framework we talk about. We will also discuss a few slides later which sustainability framework requires what in terms of disclosure of value chain partners. And that's where the need of due diligence of the supply chain or the value chain emerges, right? If I am taking any disclosure of any of my value chain or supply chain partner to be part of my own sustainability report, at the first place, I have to be sure the data, what I am collecting from them, is true, correct, accurate, and complete. And I would not be able to do so unless I am part of the setting up system to gather that information, or once that data is received, I'm able to have the comfort on the completeness and accuracy of that data. And that's where the due diligence actually comes into picture if I only talk about sustainability reporting. Apart from sustainability reporting, the due diligence part of value chain very well comes into picture when it is actually the part of the entire life cycle of the product the company is dealing in. What if the quality of the raw material, what is being provided to you, is not matching with the requirement of my customer who had mandated a particular quality of that raw material? My product will fail because the quality of the raw material fails. And the only method of checking or ensuring the quality of the raw material is largely through due diligence process or code of ethics signed with them, etc., etc. So let's deep dive into the concept. Again, I would reiterate, please be here physically, mentally, and with all your energy, because this is such an important topic. If we lose it, we will lose a lot of things where which can help us understand the company's sustainability reports, the regulations around it, and trust me, I have put in a lot of effort uh, to put in that data, because as I mentioned, it is not something which is chat gpt written or something which is published somewhere, though I gathered data from some reports, for example that risk report, but it took a lot of time to gather and design this session for my colleague partners. Yes. So, what are supply chain partners? Supply chain partners, anybody who is connected with the organization, either as supplier, customer, manufacturers, logistic partners, traders, vendors, technology partners, contractors, and others who are associated with corporates we are dealing with are my value chain partners. So, what are value chain partners or supply chain partners? The people or the organization or the services which adds value to your product are my value chain partners or supply chain partner. There may be two types of supply chain partners, upstream and downstream. The ones we buy the raw material from or take the services from are my upstream value chain partners, and the people whom I provide the services to or the goods to are my downstream value chain partners. As I mentioned in the beginning, and I'll keep reiterating throughout the session, unless the entire chain is seamless, the company cannot operate at best of its efficiency. If anything is falling short of supply versus demand, the company would not be able to operate with efficient level. So we understood the concept of value chain partners. So I am in the middle, and people above me and downside me who are either giving or taking goods or services are my value chain partners. And since, as I mentioned, some of or most of the sustainability frameworks demand and most of the regulators demand ensuring the value chain partners compliances, assessment, etc. Therefore, due diligence is a tool, a strong tool for us to assess and to report the data related to value chain partners. We understood value chain partners, but before we deep dive further into the concept, we have to understand the supply chains and its types. If you ask very particular question and examples of these, I may not be right now in a position to give you the exact answer because these are very complex. So I've been working with complex supply chains, and that's where I gathered the data from. But there is a lot more to it. So the first type of supply chain, what you can see on the screen is the linear supply chain. Very simple structure when you have supplier, manufacturer, distributor, and customer. Very simple beverage manufacturing company. The other type of supply chain cluster can be hub and spoke supply chain. For example, you have a centralized hub, which is a manufacturer warehouse, which is connected to various regional spokes, suppliers, and customers. So it's a hub versus spoke supply chain. For example, large FMCGs or pharma companies, where they have central distribution centers giving to different spoke suppliers and customers. The third type, what you can see, and there may be other multiple also. So these are well known, well understood, commonly spoken types of supply chain, and there may be other complex and a hybrid of these as well. The third type, what can be, is the networked or integrated supply chain. The structure is like that. It is multiple interconnected nodes, which are suppliers or warehouses or retailers, which are working in a collaboration. For example, automotive companies, electronics, aerospace supply chain, etc., having network and meeting the needs of each other. The fourth one on your screen is the tiered supply chain. What are these? So there are different layers of the suppliers. So for example, component assembler, you do some work, you pass it on to the next level, then you do something, then you pass it on to others. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. This is the most commonly heard supply chain system, what one might have heard. How can I remove this black, this bar which is coming to my screen? I have to hide floating meeting controls. Okay, I did it. Sorry. Okay. So the next type of this is modular and decentralized supply chain, which is independent business units or regions which manage their own supply chain. For example, MNCs which are operating in multiple countries with local suppliers. So they are operating outside and they have local suppliers here. So sort of modular supply chain they have in multiple countries. Digital or cloud-based, as the name suggests, for example, e-commerce companies or tech-driven manufacturers. And next is circular supply chain. As the name suggests, the product you are manufacturing, it comes back to you in a closed loop, right? For example, electronics items or textile where you have some garments and that is recycled. There are multiple companies who very authentically write that we have used fabricated, refurbished, threads to the extent of 10%, 20%. I've seen it written on Westside Tata Group products, etc. So these are the type of value chain partners or supply chain partner. Let's have a quick recap before we move ahead. We understood what is sustainability, what is important, and how the business sustainability of the company is dependent upon the good supply chain. Then we understood what are supply chain, upstream and downstream. We then understood the different types of supply chains which are commonly known. And a caveat again, there may be other types of supply chain or a hybrid of it, but these are most commonly known. And let me also tell you one thing. One session on one simple topic, for example, I was recently viewing GHG emissions seminar, which was wonderfully driven by the speaker, well understood. But one session is absolutely not enough to make somebody understand about the entire content. However, these sessions are the pathways or gives you the skeleton how you have to go ahead. It gives you a flavor so that anytime when you comes across anything further, you can actually take interest and read through it again. So just take it as a session where the skeleton is drawn, and please deep dive into the concept further. Now, you might have seen, and I'll give you certain examples with numbers also, basis my industry research. Out of my entire value chain, largely the upstream are having MSMEs, and they form very significant part of our economy. As you can see, 6.3 crores of MSMEs are there in India approximately. They contribute around 45% of India's export. These contribute at least 30% of India's GDP. And MSMEs employ at least 40% of the workforce, Indian workforce. They support to large industries, and last but not the least, they are pivotal in terms of inclusive development of our country or our progression. Why we are discussing this here? For a very simple reason, we want to reiterate or re-emphasize on the concept that the value chain and including MSME play a very important role in Indian economy, in Indian businesses, in Indian business sustainability, and therefore taking care of them in terms of making them understand about the ESG requirement, making them understand how to prepare and present the data is very, very important. And why we touched base MSMEs? Because they are coming from very unstructured background. They have small sheds where they are running their business. They are struggling to have, growing their business. If you ask an MSME to provide me some sustainability data or GHG emission data, he will say, what are you saying? I am not able to have my accounting books electronically. You are asking me the non-financial data. How is it possible? Therefore, the real challenge come, which I am also facing and handling those in a real life. And that's what I really want to share with you all. So we were discussing about the importance of value chain, which is largely constituted in India through MSME as well. So if we look at this industry practice, and this is based on BRSR data. So let me explain what it is. So if you look at these companies on the left side, we evaluated their BRSR and we found that these companies in the year 23-24, I did not update it for 23-24 because I had prepared this data somewhere in April for a seminar. Till that time, I did not have the reports of 24 or 25. So just assess the importance rather than the updated data. So if you see as high as 53% are being procured from MSMEs and as low as 16%. So you can understand that if MSMEs play that important role, so what about the entire value chain system? Why and how much they are important for the company's sustainability initiatives and company sustainability report. Since if you have looked at BRSR, if you have looked at GRI report, if you have looked at other reports where, and we will discuss those very specifically, which framework demands what in terms of supply chain, we will get to know collectively that collecting data from them and making part of our own report is a very strong and brave step, because unless we are very comfortable that their data collection process is foolproof, the data what they have provided is backed up by support, I would not like to make that data a part of my report. I have to take very, very strong steps to make sure that data is correct. Therefore, with this significance, we have to be very, very cautious while we understand their importance and we design the sustainability initiatives around the entire supply chain. Now, what are the disclosures which are required with respect to supply chain and value chain as demanded by different frameworks, as I just mentioned? Why we are understanding this? So, the topic was sustainable supply chain, due diligence, and transparency. So before we reach to what is due diligence, how it is done, what is the methodology. Before that, and you would agree to me, being a chartered accountant, we want to go to the root where it is coming from. Why should I do it? How should I do it? So, for that purpose, we have to first understand and decode what are the specific requirements where the value chain related disclosures or compliances are coming up. This will help us understand or get the concept in two ways. One, we will get comfortable that whatever I'm doing is worth doing. This is demanded by regulators. This is demanded by supply chain, by other stakeholders. The second is I would be able to nail that right. What are the specific disclosure requirements? What are the specific compliance requirements? And therefore, it is very, very important to understand where the disclosure is coming from. So, have you heard, and I'm sure you might have heard, the BRSR, and there is a specific concept which is called as BRSR core. Let me explain you a bit and then we will move forward. BRSR is a sustainability report, and I'm sure since the companies are doing it for more than 3 years now, some of them did it voluntarily as well last year, in the first year. So BRSR is a Indian specific sustainability report mandated by SEBI. Initially, it was a baby of MCA, which was taken over by SEBI. And for last 3 years, companies have been preparing the sustainability report. Top 1,000 listed companies are mandated to prepare rather, but some of the companies are also preparing on voluntary basis. And trust me, wherever we handholded the companies for preparing the BRSR on a voluntary basis, they did admit that they could get a lot of leverage from preparing voluntary sustainability report in terms of brand value, what they gained out of it, the confidence of the stakeholders, the confidence of others in the value chain, etc., etc. And they could actually bring everything in terms of non-financial data in one place. So BRSR very quickly is a sustainability report driven through multiple regulations. It has Companies Act, it has SEBI's requirement through LODR, it has labor laws, it has environmental laws, it has within the environmental laws, it has groundwater body related regulation. It has a lot many information which is coming from or drawn from different regulation. A lot of information comes from for and with respect to HR, which is largely coming from labor law, including Factories Act, etc., etc. One of a very important core item. So yeah, so we were talking about BRSR. So once the BRSR is prepared, there are 9 key KPIs which are called as BRSR core. All of these together with the entire BRSR are based on 9 principles of NGRBCs. One of a very important concept, what you can see in the middle, which is the ninth, not in number, but this is one of the 9 KPI, which is fair engagement with suppliers and customers. There are certain matrices which are required to be presented by the company in the BRSR, and it deals with the data related to suppliers and customers. Some of the information is also drawn from the financial statements also. I'm sure you might have undergone a lot of BRSR related sessions also. In case you have any problem later, you can ask me or you can read. And let me tell you, the ICI publication on BRSR is the most wonderful document I have ever heard about sustainability. It has everything. So if you're starting your journey on ESG, please read through that document, that booklet prepared by ICI. It has entire history of the sustainability frameworks and how the sustainability started across the globe in India. What are the assurance requirement? What are the different constituents of sustainability, etc., etc. And I would highly recommend to have or pursue that BRSR code, which is being done by ICI as well. So coming back to the topic, BRSR core, or rather BRSR, demands some information to be published with respect to suppliers or customers, and therefore we have to be cognizant of that fact. We have to get that data. So we were talking why we are doing this. So we have to get that answer first, why we are getting the information for suppliers or customers. Then we will go how to collect and how to present and how to validate. This was one. The second requirement which comes, top 1,000 listed companies are required to prepare BRSR. Those top 1,000 listed companies in a gliding path manner by 26-27 are also required to get the assurance thereof, together with the value chain partners, which is applicable from 25-26. Initially, it was applicable from 24-25 and 25-26 in a gliding path manner, but SEBI had recently relaxed the condition for value chain partners for their BRSR code. The companies will be subject to limited assurance, but that too on voluntary basis, and top 250 companies. So we are relaxed for now. 25-26, the company will be required to have disclosures, that too on voluntary basis, and that too for top 250 company. And assurance is to be done for those 250 companies on voluntary basis, but again a liberty has been given. It's voluntary. Earlier it was not. So and that too, they have also relaxed how much percentage of value chain needs to be considered. It is 2% in individuality. Clubbing together is 75%. So again, the question should come why we are discussing. So understand a situation that you are collecting the value chain partners data, and you are responsible to get assured, maybe on a voluntary basis, but a third party verification is done and your report with your name is out that my value chain partners underwent this and this is the audit report, and I undertook that activity, and you do not have the comfort on those numbers. So to get comfort on those numbers, I have to take a step back and understand the ecosystem where the value chains are dealing, how to make them equipped with ESG, how to create that data collection system, how to make them audit ready. All these activities have to be pre-planned, and that will be assisted by one of the major tool, which is due diligence. And that's where we are studying this. So we understood why we are doing it. So one reason was BRSR. The other one is GRI or other framework. So if you see, these are multiple frameworks: GRI, IR, UN SDGs. TCFD has been withdrawn, or rather, they have mentioned on their website that they've stopped updating it in October 2023, and IFRS body has taken up the further disclosure through IFRS S1, S2. CSRD is the other new framework, which again has been deferred. One wave has been deferred or further by the US government. So there are multiple frameworks. We'll quickly discuss which framework demands what and why we should be bothered about it. Before that, I would like to show you one very good industry practice which is created by me. If you look at these 13 companies, and these are again the data for 24-25, I had to update it for 25-26, but I did not get the corresponding data for these companies. So if you look at the first three frameworks, what have been used by the companies are BRSR, because that is a mandate. They are functioning in India. The other two are GRI and IR, and there are multiple other frameworks. So the mostly which you can see is CDP, TCFD, UN SDGs, or TNFD, SASB at couple of places you can find. So if a company chooses to or requires to, chooses to means voluntarily, or requires to means either through regulation or anybody in the value chain. If somebody asks you to prepare, you have to prepare. For example, we do group reporting in the financial audit. In India, we are preparing Ind AS, and my parent company is operating outside and they are preparing in UK GAAP. I have to prepare an equivalent report or financial statements in UK GAAP for them to enable to prepare their consolidated UK GAAP report. Similarly, in that manner, if any counterpart of the value chain is functioning in any part of the globe, they have to consolidate their information, or they have to evaluate which counterpart of mine in other countries is operating or giving a similar report. In that manner or for that purpose, we have to prepare other reports also. So you can see one single company is preparing as many as 6 sustainability reports, and every single sustainability report, or rather, if I would not say every single, most of it requires disclosures of value chain. And that is the emerging point. If I am publishing something which relates to outsiders, which are not in my control, which do not have the systematic way of recording non-financial data, I cannot make that data as part of my report. Never. And therefore, we have to start taking that cognizance that together with our ESG initiative or our ESG, we, if I'm saying money company, so if we are taking any ESG initiative, we have to produce good sustainability report. And I have a big supply chain. I have to equip them to be part of that journey right from beginning, for taking good initiative, for making good report. So let's have a quick recap what we did. We understood about sustainability, why we did understand that sustainability, because value chain is a part of the business sustainability. Then we understood what are value chain partners, why they are important. We also understood about the types of value chain partners and some examples of it. There are different types of value chain partners. Then we understood why we are understanding value chain partners, what is the important. Then we started with, as a mindset of a chartered accountant, why and where it is coming from. So it is coming from sustainability reports, either as Indian report or other report. We understood very quickly the concept of BRSR core, which is part of the BRSR, which demands the supply chain disclosures. What are those disclosures? We also understood a couple of other frameworks which equally demands, in one way or the other, the disclosures about supply chain. And since regulatory or other mandate requires me to report about value chain, therefore, I have to be sure that the data which is being prepared or collected or reported is correct. So, value chain at multiple places requires these reporting. Just have a look at these. And my request is just bring your energy back. If it is being monotonous, I can start speaking in Hindi as well, because that will that will bring your interest back. If it is fine, it's fine. So let's have a quick understanding and eyes on this slide. There are multiple disclosures on green credits. This is a new requirement which has been added for supply chain, sustainable sourcing and life cycle assessment, reporting on adverse impact, disclosure of scope 3, which is not a BRSR core, conducting awareness and capacity building sessions, timely deduction and deposit of statutory dues, assessment of various parameters of health and safety measures. So multiple disclosures. So just listen to me carefully. These are the disclosures. I just again reiterate, please listen to me very, very carefully. These are the disclosures what the companies have to make for their value chain partner. For example, whether the company is following a sustainable sourcing mechanism, how much is the percentage. So sustainable sourcing relates to my value chain. So to address that, yes, I am doing sustainable sourcing, I should have evidence in place how I have assessed and what is the data, because I have to give the percentage. If you have been part of a BRSR reporting team, you might have observed that the XBRL filing of the BRSR needs to be done, where while you can write qualitative answer in the report, the published report, if there is a place for number or the percentage to be given, you have to give the percentage. So to arrive at that percentage, you should be very, very sure that the data is correct. Human right compliances, whether your partners, value chain partners or supply chain partners have done the human right compliances, you should be very, very clear. So all these data would form part of listed companies BRSR, And to get that, you have to be sure that the proper documentation, data collection mechanism, completeness, and assurance thereof. Assurance, if I'm saying not audit, but assurance in terms of that the data is correct. So that will come through. There are other tools also, but the most important is due diligence, which we will discuss in a while. We spoke about BRSR. Now move to other framework कि कहाँ से वो requirement आ रही है. Let's see. So if I talk about CSRD emphasizes enhanced supply chain transparency and due diligence requirement, which is to be given, as I said, different frameworks in different ways gives or emphasizes on the importance of value chain related data. If I talk about TNFD is another framework which talks about task force on natural related financial disclosures. It also requires to assess nature related risk and opportunities throughout my value chain, including upstream and downstream, and impact thereof. If I talk about IFRS S1, S2, which is largely the risk and impact of my material topics, which are non-financial on my different aspects, including financial aspect. It also talks about disclosing the material sustainability related risk and opportunities, including those which arise from value chain. So IFRS S1, S2 not only talks about your material topic, but it does talk about and reiterates the fact that the entire risk and opportunities are to be given for your value chain also. Can you consider a situation or can you imagine a situation where you don't even know what my value chain partners, my supplier, my vendor, my service provider is doing? Can you give a bold statement on the impact or the risk and opportunities in your sustainability report, which purely relates to value chain? No, unless you create a set ecosystem for the entire thing. How we will create that, we will understand quickly. So another framework, which is CDP, which was formerly known as Carbon Disclosure Project, ask organization to map their value chain and key commodities to evaluate level of supply chain and their control. Global Reporting Initiative, which is commonly known as GRI, which is the mostly used, the second mostly used even prior to BRSR. Integrated Report and GRI were mostly used and are mostly used. The third and the second frameworks other than BRSR. It also requires, and for our common understanding, BRSR and GRI are quite aligned. So if you prepare BRSR, preparing GRI is quite easy, and vice versa. It requires identification and reporting of impacts across the operations, and there are different standards within GRI which requires very specific disclosures of the value chain, including relationships and value chain. And last but not the least, which is green gas protocol. It also requires setting minimum boundaries for and with respect to GHG accounting for accounting the emissions which are emitted by the downstream and upstream value chain partners. So the point I'm trying to make here is, and I can have another list of standards to tell you, ye batata hai, ye batata hai. The point I'm trying to tell you that what exercise we are doing, which is due diligence, or we are setting up the ecosystem for sustainability reporting of value chain, is not as such non-mandatory. It is coming from set sustainability standards. One of them is the India own specific sustainability standard, which is BRSR. So it is very, very important to know what are the disclosures, what is the sensitivity and the gravity about that. For example, I spoke about sustainable sourcing. So if I say sustainable sourcing, first of all, we have to decode what do you mean by sustainable sourcing. So if you look at BRSR, SEBI has very specifically given the definition of sustainable sourcing. It gives you some parameters. So you have to have those parameters known to you. And to assess sustainable sourcing and apply it to the value chain partner, you have to have something as a written document for yourself and to guide the value chain. Then only they will be able to give you the input for that. Therefore, every single aspect of disclosure requires understanding, creating a document or SOP or a policy, making them explain, and then getting the data, and then having a check which will come through due diligence to not to certify, but to have a surety that the data is correct. We can have any question if somebody has asked so far, or we can move ahead. Any question we have got? Would you like to take those up now?
Ma'am, yes, there are some questions.
Yeah,
Moderator, can you please?
Yeah, there are few questions. First question is for companies which complex or global supply chain, how realistic it is align procedure, procurement practices with sustainable goals without significantly increasing cost or disturbance?
Okay. Is this a complete question? Shall I answer?
Yeah. Yes.
Yo. So, if we talk about any organization or a business process which is operating in India, which has a global presence, as I mentioned, that there are different types of supply chain, which involves different type of clusters within it. So, as I mentioned, I am in charge of my own operations. I am in charge of my own data, and I can take cognizance that these are correct and complete. But when it comes to collecting the data, making it part of my own report, it takes a lot to get that comfort, right? And any additional comfort will not come without any cost. So that cost may be, either the cost of your internal own employees if they are equipped to make them understand about the requirement, and it can be a cost taking assistance from outside as well if we are not equipped to do so. So India and some of the countries and most of the countries are at a nascent stage of establishing the ESG initiatives of their own. So while it comes to extending those ESG initiatives to the value chain, definitely it will take a lot of efforts, energies, and cost in the beginning years. If I say no, it will not entail any cost, I would be lying, because while a listed company is still struggling, I would not say struggling, but is still taking steps to strengthen their ESG processes, mechanism. So think of a situation, or those value chain partners, as I mentioned, that who are small vendors or MSMEs, they are currently struggling to set up their business. How can they be well versed with ESG? You have to explain them if you have to bring them into your ecosystem. So in the initial year, yes, the cost will be more, but gradually, as we go along, then the systems are set, people know the urgency or importance of ESG initiatives, the cost will reduce, but the benefits will be multifold. It will have a cost.
Thank you, ma'am. Second question is, which sectors in India are leading the shift towards sustainable supply chains, and what driving the transition, regulation, investor pressure, or customer expectations?
Yeah. So, in terms of who are the drivers of the sustainability reporting together with the value chain, we have a few slides. I'm just parking that question for that. But if you talk about the leaders, there is no leader. If you so I do a lot of work for auto companies and the supply chain. So for example, if I take example of any manufacturing OEMs which are operating in India and they are dealing with BMW, for example. So BMW itself is doing the sustainability, and they have reached to a significant level of maturity. So if that kind of company comes within the ambit of the because they are also the value chain partners of automotive companies. So they are already the trend setters for sustainability. For them, getting the data is easier, will not entail any cost, right? But if we talk about small job workers, for example, for OEMs, they are not well equipped. You will have to teach them, you will have to train them. That will have the cost. So if I talk about Indian industries, you take FMCGs, or you take any other sector, mining and all. They are so cluster driven with different size and different natured value chain. It's very difficult to say which is the leader, because everybody is starting their journey. So barring top 1,000 listed companies and some or more which are beyond top 1,000 who are doing it voluntarily, other companies are still evaluating whether they have to start the sustainability reporting and all. So nobody is leader, everybody is learning, and in years to come, I'm sure the maturity will come early for those companies who are under the mandate, and later for those who are doing on a voluntary basis.
Okay. Third question is, what is difference between supply chain and value chain in sustainability discussion?
Nothing. So largely nothing. So supply chain is the one I am getting supplied and I am supplying. So supply chain and value chain. Value means value creators. So supply chain and value chain for sustainability perspective is the same.
Okay. Last question. What are the key sustainability KPIs companies should track across their supply chains? Are there frameworks or tools you recommend for getting started? Are there any specific indicates for the same?
Yes. So there are three questions which I could hear clearly, and all these three are getting covered in this in the slides to come. So just allow me a few minutes. If still this question remains unaddressed, the participant can raise the hand and we can discuss. So all these KPIs, key drivers, tools, technologies, methodologies, etc., we are covering. So we have almost 1 hour from now, and we'll try to cover everything. We'll try to park, or I'll try to steal 5-10 minutes again for the question answers later as well. I'll break for question answers in between also to break the monotony. So what is the need for supply chain due diligence and the roadmap? So we understood the need for value chain partners. Why value chain partners? So we understood sustainability, value chain partners, type of them, and why value chain coming into picture. So I think this should be very, very clear to us that these are driven from sustainability standards, either through voluntary sustainability standard or through SEBI driven, whatever it is, but it is coming. Now we understand, and we also understood some of the disclosure. कौन सा framework क्या आपसे मांग रहा है, आपको पता चला. अब we'll come to very specific requirements of supply chain and the due diligence. Now coming to this, why supply chain due diligence is done. So I think I spoke what I have written here earlier also. Why supply chain due diligence is done? Because I have to get comfort on those numbers. I have to understand whether they are able to take the journeys along with me. I have to understand the quality what they are providing the raw material with is appropriate. I have to be very, very clear that the emission which I am reporting and what is being taken from there is correct. So value chain से रिलेटेड जितने भी मुझे कंफर्ट चाहिए या मुझे उनको अपनी जर्नी में साथ में लेना है, that is the basic reason I have to do the due diligence for. So these are some set technical answers why due diligence is done. We have to identify and map the ESG risk across the supply chain. मैंने आपसे शुरू में बताया था कि if I have the orders जो मुझे अपने कस्टमर्स को देने हैं, लेकिन मेरे पास रॉ मटेरियल ही नहीं है उतना, तो वो रिस्क है. If I have to every time look for a new raw material provider, that is a risk. मेरा ऑर्डर कल मुझे देना है और मेरे पास रॉ मटेरियल सप्लायर नहीं है, what will I do? So I have to identify and manage the ESG risk across the supply chain. That is one. Second, we have to assess suppliers for human rights, environment, and ethical. This is my ethical responsibility or a moral responsibility. If I am not allowing a child labor at my place, no child labor will be allowed at any of my supply chain, customer, supplier, raw material provider, or whatever it is. So human right assessments, environmental and ethical practices. One is the ethical responsibility of mine, and the second is most important, I have to report it, as we understood. बहुत सारे frameworks आपको बोलते हैं आपको वैल्यू चेन से रिलेटेड ये डिस्क्लोजर्स आपकी सस्टेनेबिलिटी रिपोर्ट में बनाने हैं. अगर मैं वो डिस्क्लोजर अपनी रिपोर्ट में देना चाहती हूँ, आई हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट दोज आर नॉट डन. वो मैं कैसे पता करूंगी? थ्रू ड्यू डिलिजेंस. नेक्स्ट, ensuring regulatory compliances, for example, BRSR, any other German gap, EU CSRD or CS triple D, etc. जो हमने अभी बात की. Next, promoting traceability in sourcing and operation. कहाँ से आ रहा है सामान, कहाँ पे जा रहा है, कहाँ पे ऑपरेशन हो रहा है. आपने you might have heard about CBAM. So CBAM is upcoming thing and people have already started with the precursor. So let's not talk about CBAM. So I have to trace मेरा कहाँ से सामान आ रहा है और कैसे operations हो रहे हैं. So I would like to source a material in from the vicinity so that my emissions are less transporting that item. So वो मुझे तभी पता चलेगा जब मैं वो ड्यू डिलिजेंस करूंगी. Next, engaging suppliers for corrective actions and continuous improvement. Again, I have two types of responsibilities here. One is ethical responsibility, that I really want to make them sustainable. I want to really help them making our environment green. And second, since मुझे उनके respect में disclosure अपने पास करने हैं, and if I'm making a bold statement, my entire product is green, I can only make that statement if I am very, very sure that my upstream value chain partners and downstream value chain partners are green. Can I make a statement that my entire product throughout its life cycle is green? I can't. Unless I have a control, I'm able to demonstrate that my entire value chain is green. Next, why supply chain due diligence is done? Some or other factors. Integrating sustainability criteria into procurement decisions. एक क्वेश्चन आता है बीआरएसआर में, आपका सस्टेनेबल सप्लाई चेन है और आप वल्नरेबल ग्रुप को सपोर्ट करते हो, या इसी तरह के बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस बीआरएसआर में आते हैं, which talks about are you giving benefit or leverage to small or vulnerable groups also or not. So the objective of this question is कि आप अपनी success के साथ are you also into inclusive development of the suppliers as well. तो वो और क्या आप उनको sustainable बनाने में help कर रहे हो या नहीं कर रहे हो, वो सब आपको पता कैसे चलेगा? That will be done through due diligence. Next is monitoring through audits, assessment and reporting. That is done through due diligence. Supporting a resilient, ethical, and low carbon supply chain, needless to explain. Enhance corporate resilience and transparency. If I am making my entire value chain resilient, I am making my system as a corporate system resilient. If my supply chain up or down is resilient, matlab they are not shaken because of some regulatory changes, some other mandates, I am also resilient to that extent, because they are my extended arms in terms of production and supply. Protect brand reputation. Trust me, one single bad word about anybody in the supply chain. For example, अगर मैं किसी raw material कोई raw material I'm procuring and that is not good quality, and I am supplying to a good quality customer and he finds fault because of the raw material, my product will fail and my reputation will fail. So the protection of my brand will only be done if the entire supply chain is protected and is brand compliant. Key drivers. Somebody asked about key drivers. So this is the first answer to that question. What are the key drivers for me to drive due diligence? सबसे पहला key driver है जो अभी हम शुरू से पढ़ रहे हैं is the regulatory pressure. Had this BRSR not come, had you seen the sustainability report, the flood of it, what is there for top 1000 listed company and others? No. Stakeholders' expectation, and that's the outcome of the regulatory pressure to start with. So since regulatory pressure है, इसीलिए every stakeholder. So there are n number of stakeholders which are attached to an organization, internal and external also. So stakeholders do expect to attach to a good sustainable company, right? And how will they be sure that the company is sustainable? If the company together with its value chain is sustainable, then only they will be comfortable. Yes, the company is good. Consumer demand, consumers have also started doing or asking for due diligence of the suppliers. For example, अगर मैं ऑटो कंपनी की बात करूं तो बहुत सारे कस्टमर्स मिडिल कंपनी जो लिस्टेड कंपनी उनसे डिमांड करते हैं कि आप अपने सप्लायर्स का ड्यू डिलिजेंस करो और हमें रिपोर्ट सबमिट करो, बिकॉज वो पूरा रॉ मटेरियल बिल्ड्स इनटू द फाइनल प्रोडक्ट. Reputation risk management, again, as we just understood, is the key driver. Operational resilience. If my supply chain is not resilient, I will not be resilient. ESG rating and disclosures. मुझे लगता है बताने की जरूरत नहीं है. Procurement transformation. If I have to see कि मैं जो प्रोडक्ट परचेज कर रही हूँ वो मैं इंडिया से परचेज कर रही हूँ, मैं बाहर से परचेज कर रही हूँ, वो मैं विसिनिटी से परचेज कर रही हूँ, वो दूसरे स्टेट से ला रही हूँ, कितनी कॉस्ट आ रही है, उसको ट्रांसपोर्ट करने में कितने एमिशंस आ रहे हैं, वो सारी एक्सरसाइज करने के लिए मुझे ड्यू डिलिजेंस करने के बाद ही पता चलेगा. सो अगर मैं अपनी पूरी सप्लाई चेन, प्रोक्योरमेंट चेन में ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन लाना चाहती हूँ, आई हैव टू डू दैट ड्यू डिलिजेंस. दैट्स वन ऑफ द की ड्राइवर. Corporate sustainability. So I might have a lot of corporate sustainability goals which will be achieved through due diligence. Technology enablement. It's an era of AI. If I am still manually maintaining my supply chain related data or their ESG initiative, I will definitely lose the race. So for understanding the viability of my entire supply chain, I have to take help of AI, and that is again one of the enabler for me to do due diligence. Climate risk, I have to assess किस पार्ट ऑफ माय सप्लाई चेन में कितना रिस्क है, टोटल पूरी कंपनी और पूरी लाइफ साइकिल ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट में कितना रिस्क है. फॉर दैट आई नीड टू डू ड्यू डिलिजेंस. एथिकल सोर्सिंग, विच इज sustainable sourcing or ethical sourcing, not exactly synonymous but similar to it. So if my sourcing is ethical, I have done due diligence. That is something which is again a key driver. What are the principles? So मैं कब बोलूंगी कि ये मेरी सस्टेनेबल सोर्सिंग है, राइट? तो या सस्टेनेबल वैल्यू चेन के क्या की प्रिंसिपल्स होते हैं. सो मेरा मोटिव है कि उस पूरे सप्लाई चेन में मेरा वेस्ट रिड्यूस हो, एथिकल सोर्सिंग हो, लाइफ साइकिल असेसमेंट हो पूरे सस्टेनेबल सप्लाई चेन का, रेन्यूएबल एनर्जी हम ज्यादा यूज करें एज अगेंस्ट फॉसिल फ्यूल्स, कम्युनिटी इंगेज हो उस पूरी साइकिल में, और कॉन्टिन्यूस इंप्रूवमेंट होना चाहिए every aspect of my supply chain. So these are the core principles of sustainable value chain. मतलब अगर ये principles exist करते हैं, then I will say my value chain is sustainable, right? Now we are deep diving into a little tricky techie version of my due diligence. So far, let's have a recap. We understood about a concept which is called sustainability, which is not new, but we understand that sustainability का जो purpose है, जो color है, वो change होता है depending upon the situation, the purpose, the objective. अगर मैं बिजनेस सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात करती हूँ तो उस बिजनेस सस्टेनेबिलिटी को अटेन करने के लिए मुझे मेरी सप्लाई चेन को सस्टेनेबल बनाना पड़ेगा. अब सप्लाई चेन एक कॉन्सेप्ट हमने समझा, व्हाट इज सप्लाई चेन, व्हाट इज वैल्यू चेन, उसके टाइप समझे, किस तरह के क्लस्टर्स हो सकते हैं. फिर उसके बाद हमने समझा कि वो सप्लाई चेन का कॉन्सेप्ट आ कहाँ से रहा है. दैट इज जनरली रेगुलेटरी ड्रिवन इन इंडिया थ्रू BRSR, एंड अलग अलग कंट्रीज के अपने, जैसे CSRD इज द EU ड्रिवन फ्रेमवर्क. सो अलग अलग कंट्रीज के अलग अलग टेरिटरीज, ज्योग्राफी के अलग अलग फ्रेमवर्क है. बट अगर आप क्रॉस बॉर्डर ट्रांजैक्शंस कर रहे हो, आप बिजनेस कर रहे हो, सो जस्ट लाइक we do group reporting, we do group non-financial reporting as well. फिर we understood the typical aspects of those disclosure requirements. We understood the need for due diligence, why due diligence is done, what are the key drivers, and when I will say that my value chain is sustainable, right? So far we have done this. Let's understand कि ड्यू डिलिजेंस का कॉन्सेप्ट तो समझ लिया कि ड्यू डिलिजेंस करना है, किसका करना है, क्यों इम्पोर्टेंट है, बट वो करना कैसे है, कौन बोल रहा है करने के लिए, और करने के बाद करना क्या, रिपोर्ट करना है, वो भी अंडरस्टूड ऑल ऑफ दोस, बट लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड कि करना कैसे है. So first step, first of all, we will assess and identify the risk involved, right? So हम ये देखेंगे कि पूरे सप्लाई चेन में what is the weakest link, which is the riskiest component of my supply chain. Reason being, if that is risky, that means अगर मैं रिस्क बोलूं तो उसको ऐसे समझो कि वो सेगमेंट मेरे लिए कितना इंपॉर्टेंस रखता है, राइट? सो किस पार्ट ऑफ माय सप्लाई चेन पे मुझे सबसे ज्यादा फोकस करना है. आई हैव टू सेट the systems, processes, etc. What are demanded? What are the key risky portions of my entire supply chain which are demanded by my stakeholders, which needs to be in the focus? That's the first step. Second is preventive and mitigative measures. I have to develop the code of conduct. Reason being, as and when we enter into any relationship with any supply chain vendor, supplier, etc., we have to have something as written document which is signed by them, which they have to abide to throughout the journey with the corporate, that they will follow those rules and regulations. So we have to develop the code of conduct, we have to embed the sustainability clause, and we have to also train them. So this is a preventive measure what we have to take in. This is the second step. मैं एकदम से उठ के नहीं जा सकती उनकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, और किसके पास जाना है. सो कंपनी डील्स विद मल्टीपल सप्लाई चेन. सो आपको देखना पड़ेगा, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर आपके 100 रॉ मटेरियल सप्लायर्स हैं और उसमें से 5 ऐसे हैं जो आपको 90% इन टर्म्स ऑफ वैल्यू रॉ मटेरियल सप्लाई करते हैं, सो यू आर गुड. अगर आप वो 5 का ड्यू डिलिजेंस कर लेते हैं और बाकी 95 का नहीं करते हैं, नंबर्स में वो ज्यादा है लेकिन क्रिटिकलिटी में वो बहुत, या मटीरियलिटी, हम वो मटीरियलिटी का वर्ड समझते हैं. सो मटीरियलिटी मेरे वो 5 कस्टमर्स वो मेरे रिस्की है, मतलब अगर मैं उस एंगल से बोलूं तो वो मेरे रिस्की प्रेपोजिशन क्रिएट करते हैं. सो आई कैन नॉट रैंडमली सेंड देम चेकलिस्ट, ये भरो भेजो. सो ऐसा क्या होगा कि I will end up looking at the checklist which are filled by rest of those 95% and I miss those 5 critical ones. So planning is a must. I will plan, I will take preventive measures, then I will monitor and audit. I will do regular audits. I will do self-assessment questionnaire. What a self-assessment questionnaire, we will understand how it is done. And real-time monitoring can also be done through digital tools. So आज की डेट में बहुत सारे टूल प्रोवाइडर्स हैं जो ग्रुप एज अ होल ऑफ कंपनी प्लस द वैल्यू चेन, उनका एक कनेक्टेड सॉफ्टवेयर या टूल होता है जिसके थ्रू आप रियल टाइम मॉनिटरिंग भी कर सकते हो. देन ग्रीवेंस मैकेनिज्म. तो व्हाट आर ग्रीवेंस मैकेनिज्म? सपोज आपके कस्टमर को, सप्लायर को आपसे कोई तकलीफ है, सो दे शुड हैव अ सेट सिस्टम टू रेज देयर वॉइस टू गेट दैट aggrieved, to get that resolved. So that grievance redressal mechanism has to be there. आपने सारा काम कर लिया बट रिपोर्ट नहीं किया, so you have to use the right sustainability reporting or other mechanism to report. So these are some of the steps which are involved in the due diligence process. If time allows, I will share some real examples or procedures, how we did, what were the challenges. So we have slides for challenges, we have slides for recommendations, but practically what were the challenges, if time allows, we will discuss those later practically. Value chain partners ड्यू डिलिजेंस कवरेज. आपको कवर कौन कौन करना है, क्या क्या कवर करना है ड्यू डिलिजेंस पे. सो आपने डिसाइड किया कि, या आपको पता चला कि आपकी कंपनी BRSR में फॉल करती है, आपको ये डिस्क्लोजर्स देने हैं, ह्यूमन राइट्स का, सस्टेनेबल सप्लाई चेन का, deduction of statutory dues etc. ठीक है, but how will you start? ठीक है, आपको क्या क्या मांगना है उनसे, आपको क्या क्या इवेल्युएट करना है, we will understand that. So first of all, the primary information of the partner is should be there. कंपनी का प्रोफाइल, ओनरशिप कहाँ पे एग्जिस्ट करती है, उसका लीगल रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर्स क्या है. इंडिया में बहुत सारे अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड वैल्यू चेन पार्टनर्स भी है. सो कई जगह पे ऐसा हो सकता है कि वो रजिस्ट्रेशन की रिक्वायरमेंट ना हो, बट कई जगह पे ये भी हो सकता है कि इग्नोरेंस की वजह से उन्होंने रजिस्ट्रेशन ना कराया हो. सो इफ यू आर डीलिंग विद एन अनऑथराइज्ड वेंडर, maybe ignorantly they could not do it, so that means you are also falling prey of non-compliance in the entire supply chain. So these basic information, registration, environmental clearances, company's registration number, profile, whether they are in the restricted list of the government etc., should be part of your due diligence. So there are so we have created detailed due diligence parameters, checklists for different industries which we do, and it keeps on adding because हर साल कुछ नया regulation आ जाता है. So I was just taking a session on EPR with one of the forums. So plastic waste में एक और category add हो गया था. So there was one notification which was not published on the website, but it was there in the e-gadget. So we have to be very, very sure that we update ourselves. एक बार आपने ESG पढ़ा या एक बार आपने कोई ड्यू डिलिजेंस मैकेनिज्म पढ़ा, you created your own list कि ये 5 सर्टिफिकेशन देखने हैं, ये 5 tick in the box करने हैं, you are not sorted forever. No, we have to update ourselves. We have to be on the toes while we are into this. And needless to tell, my colleague partners, yeah, here I am saying partners, my colleague chartered accountants, because we are known for updating ourselves. So clearing chartered accountancy is just a signal or a certificate that now you are entering into an era of changes. So that's a certification to begin your journey. उसके बाद पढ़ाई तो हमेशा चलेगी. You have to update yourself. What is the critical changes in the regulation which derive ESG? Environmental compliances, again, जो मैं studies की बात करी थी, here that is used the most. So we have to be very, very sure what are the compliances which are related to that specific industry, sector, company, area, etc. For example, बहुत सारी companies depending upon the usage of the water, कहाँ पे वो ऑपरेट कर रही है, वो वाटर स्ट्रेस एरिया में आती है, जिसका डिस्क्लोजर मेरा BRSR में भी आता है. सिमिलरली डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द एरिया, किस पोल्यूशन, कितना पोल्यूशन वो कर रहे हैं, वो जोन्स होते हैं, रेड जोन, येलो जोन, एटसेट्रा. वो वाटर के बेसिस पे भी होता है, वो आपके एनवायरमेंटल क्लियरेंसेस के बेसिस पे भी होता है, बहुत सारे. सो यू शुड बी अवेयर, यू कैन नॉट साउंड एलियंट इन फ्रंट ऑफ द क्लाइंट, यू शुड बी अवेयर. सो वो ड्यू डिलिजेंस जब आप कर रहे हो तो आपको पता होना चाहिए आप किस कंपनी, आपकी कंपनी को आप जान सकते हो, बट जिस वैल्यू चेन के साथ आप डील कर रहे हो, जिसका आप ड्यू डिलिजेंस करने जा रहे हो, वो किस एरिया में है, वो किस स्ट्रेस एरिया, वाटर स्ट्रेस एरिया में है, नहीं है, जिस स्टेट में वो फंक्शन कर रहा है, उसके ऊपर कौन कौन से कंप्लायंसेस लगते हैं, जिस बिजनेस में वो है उसके ऊपर कौन कौन से सर्टिफिकेशंस लगते हैं, वो आपको समझना पड़ेगा. देन ओनली यू कैन डू द ड्यू डिलिजेंस. नेक्स्ट, human and social right aspect. For example, child labor, fair wages, central equality, diversity, freedom or association of collective bargaining. Collective bargaining, I'm sure you might have heard. So that is related to union and associations, etc. These many rules, because this is the part of the S of ESG. You have to be very, very clear. And this is the most sensitive part when it comes to due diligence of MSMEs and small vendors. Governance and ethical practice, anti-corruption, business code of ethics, data protection and cyber security, DPDP Act is a new one. If it is applicable, you should be equipped with those knowledge. If you are not, you should be able whom to reach out to, etc. So regulatory and legal compliances should also be known to you if you are going for due diligence. Due diligence is not a simple exercise. Trust me. If it's a due diligence of the company you are dealing with, you know the company, you know the operations, you know the clearances, you know the governance or the ethical practice which derive the company. But when it comes to wide spectrum of due diligence of the value chain, you should be you have to become Wikipedia. You have no other choice. Either you take external help, or if you are doing it in-house, you have to be very, very clear about these aspects for every type of raw material provider or service provider, because company deals with multiple type of value chain partners, upstream, downstream. If you are doing due diligence of gamut of different type of people, you have to be equipped with all of those. सो सस्टेनेबिलिटी कमिटमेंट्स क्या है उन कंपनीज के, आर दे मीटिंग दोज? अगर उन्होंने अपनी सस्टेनेबिलिटी रिपोर्ट पब्लिश की और उन्होंने लिखा है दैट वी विल बिकम कार्बन न्यूट्रल बाय 2040, फॉर एग्जांपल सपोज ऑटो कंपनी का जो कलेक्टिव टारगेट है वो दैट इज 2050, बट अगर उन्होंने अपनी रिपोर्ट में लिखा है दैट वी विल बिकम कार्बन न्यूट्रल बाय 2025, सो दैट रेजेज एन अलार्म। 2025 में ऑटो कंपनी कहाँ से कार्बन न्यूट्रल हो जाएगी? सो उनके सस्टेनेबल कमिटमेंट्स हैं, और जो उन्होंने अपनी पुरानी रिपोर्ट में लिखा है, आर दे मीटिंग दोज, आर दे गोइंग इन दैट डायरेक्शन? अगर किसी कंपनी ने लिखा है कि हम हर साल 100 पेड़ 100 ट्रीज प्लांट करेंगे, आर दे एक्चुअली डूइंग इट? वो ड्यू डिलिजेंस का पार्ट है। सप्लाई चेन ट्रांसपेरेंसी, suppose the company we are doing the due diligence with and they are doing with other tiers also, how much transparent they are, unka wo risk assessment etc they are doing for the next level etc. ऑडिट एंड मैकेनिज्म, उनका थर्ड पार्टी कोई ऑडिट होता है, वो भी मेरे ड्यू डिलिजेंस का पार्ट है। जैसे हम स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर हैं, वी आर auditing, we are responsible and we are authorized to see the internal audit report or any other special reports or the audit what the company is going on. Similarly, we have to see अगर उनका कोई लेबर लॉ का इंस्पेक्शन हुआ है या उनका कोई कस्टमर ऑडिट हुआ है, कस्टमर ऑडिट इज in demand and it's on these days. Every customer is doing the audit of their manufacturing unit जो उनके लिए raw material या product बना के दे रहा है. Are they meeting the quality parameters etc? So अगर उनकी कोई audit finding आई है तो उन्होंने वो उसको comply किया नहीं किया, that needs to be given. Grievance redressal mechanism as we just discussed. अगर उनका grievance redressal mechanism वो अपनी website पे या किसी formal channel पे communicate कर रहे हैं, you have to see whether it is actually done or not and how they are dealing with the complaints. They are saying we are every day we are clearing the customers reports or grievances, and आप उनका अगर पूरा log देखते हो तो 5 दिन पुरानी 10 दिन पुरानी grievances भी पड़ी हुई हैं, they will definitely fail the due diligence. Business continuity and disaster recovery plans or resilience plan, whatever you call it as, that means अगर अर्थक्वेक आ जाता है या अगर उनका आईटी पे साइबर अटैक आ जाता है, हाउ मच दे आर रेजिलियंट टू रिकवर आउट ऑफ इट? उनका डेटा तो नहीं उड़ जाएगा? अर्थक्वेक आ गया तो वो अर्थक्वेक प्रोन उनकी बिल्डिंग है या नहीं? और किसी भी और तरह का फ्लड और वॉट एवर ड्रॉट एंड ऑल, कुछ भी तरह का अगर कुछ है तो जिस एरिया में वो डील कर रहे हैं या उनके फर्दर सप्लाई चेन डील कर रहे हैं, अगर एक रॉ मटेरियल प्रोवाइडर उनका एक ऐसे एरिया में डील कर रहा है फॉर एग्जाम्पल जहाँ पे अर्थक्वेक बहुत जल्दी आता है, तो व्हाट इफ अगर अर्थक्वेक आ जाए, क्या कंपनी के पास ऑल्टरनेटिव प्लान है उनकी रॉ मटेरियल नीड्स पूरा करना? दैट एवरीथिंग कम्स इन द ड्यू डिलिजेंस. ड्यू डिलिजेंस ऐसे नहीं होता कि आप गए उनकी साइट पे देखा मशीनें चल रही हैं, पानी नहीं बह रहा है, क्रैक्स नहीं है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कंड्यूट उनके ठीक है, ये ड्यू डिलिजेंस नहीं होता. ड्यू डिलिजेंस इज क्वाइट डीप. It starts with your homework first and ends with a lot of questions and documentation etc. You cannot go like that, आप गए और you do the plant visit और हो गया due diligence. It is a deep exercise. Due diligence methodology. Somebody asked किस तरीके से हम कर सकते हैं. So I have responded the key drivers. I have responded the previous one, what needs to be covered. And the next question which I heard, and if not, please let me know, I will try to cover that. किस तरीके से हम कर सकते हैं. So when it comes to methodology कि आप due diligence करेंगे कैसे, वो depend करता है कि किस purpose के लिए आप due diligence कर रहे हैं. Is it driven through regulation? Is it a voluntary exercise? It is a customer requirement? Is it an investor's requirement? It is a banker's requirement. आजकल bankers, when they are funding you, they want. So I was doing one assignment where one NBFC was, giving loan to some of the MSMEs. So they were mandated to have a system in place to assess how sustainable those loan takers are, like ESG side से, not only from the financial viability side. So इसी तरह से bankers have also started taking an initiative that जिनको वो लोन दे रहे हैं, हाउ मच दे आर सस्टेनेबल, हाउ मच दे आर ESG कंप्लायंट. सो आपको पर्पस समझना पड़ेगा कि किस पर्पस के लिए वो ड्यू डिलिजेंस आप कर रहे हैं. एक दवाई सारी बीमारी पे नहीं काम करती. सो एक ड्यू डिलिजेंस चेकलिस्ट विल नॉट वर्क on all kind of due diligence exercise what you really want to do. So you have to understand. So now we are understanding different methodology, but you have to match your requirement, and these may not be this is not the exhaustive list. This is mostly prevalent methodologies what we follow, what I have followed for me in my sustainability journey for my clients. So supplier self assessment questionnaire. So what happens, suppose onboarding हो रही है किसी client की, so उनकी एक self assessment checklist. आपने अरीबा का नाम सुना होगा. That is the most prevalent supplier assessment platform what most of the companies, big sized companies use, जहाँ पे code of ethics होता है vendor का, वो उनको sign करना पड़ता है. एक self assessment questionnaire they embed. The supplier who is bidding for a particular project, they have to fill that. They have to do that self assessment. अगर वो कंपनी बिड क्लियर कर लेती है और बिड पास कर लेती है, सो सेल्फ असेसमेंट में आप कुछ भी लिख सकते हो. वी हैव नो चाइल्ड लेबर, वी आर अर्थ prone earthquake prone building, we have facilities for special need people, etc, etc. So initially they will accept as it is. If you win the bid, they will do the assessment, they will do the due diligence, right? So this is the starting point or one of the methodologies of due diligence, where standardized ESG parameters are written and they have to give them rating, or they have to give them some like they have to write some qualitative or quantitative answers. And largely वो जो questions आते हैं वो depend करता है वो किसी framework से तो नहीं drive हो रहे. So for example, जैसे हमने BRSR में देखा था कि बहुत सारे boxes थे, ह्यूमन राइट और टैक्सेस पेड एक्सेट्रा. सो वो सारी चीजें हम चेकलिस्ट में कन्वर्ट कर देंगे, क्योंकि हमें वो BRSR के पर्पज से वो ड्यू डिलिजेंस करना है. हम वो अपलोड कर देंगे और वो सेल्फ असेस करेंगे. अगर उसका सिलेक्शन नहीं हुआ, वी आर नॉट बॉदर. अगर वो सिलेक्ट हो जाता है, वी विल डू द ड्यू डिलिजेंस लेटर और एन ऑडिट सॉर्ट ऑफ थिंग. रिस्क बेस्ड सेगमेंटेशन एंड प्रायोरिटाइजेशन. सो इस ड्यू डिलिजेंस मेथोडोलॉजी में क्या होता है, आप मटीरियलिटी पे जाते हो, आप रिस्क की मटीरियलिटी पे जाते हो, ज्योग्राफी के हिसाब से, इंडस्ट्री के हिसाब से. वी कैटेगराइज एंड वी देन डू the due diligence depending upon the criticality and the risk level of that vendor. Documentation verification, for example, आप ऑनबोर्डिंग के लिए जा रहे हैं तो आपको वो बहुत सारी चीजें बोलेंगे. जैसे मैंने बात की थी कि अगर वो रजिस्ट्रेशन, उसका सर्टिफिकेट, उसके क्लियरेंसेस, अगर आपके पास वो सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं, आप पास हो जाओगे, नहीं तो नहीं. दिस इज अगेन अ टूल ऑफ वेरिफिकेशन. ऑन साइट और रिमोट ऑडिट्स. सो इट मे बी पोस्ट फैक्टो, ये जो हम शुरू के 3 बात कर रहे हैं, और इट मे बी इंडिपेंडेंट ऑल्सो. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, एक छोटा वेंडर है, वो उसके पास अरीबा नहीं है, उसके पास पोर्टल नहीं है, वो सीधे से जाएगा, ठीक है, you want to get onboarded with us, my team will come, they'll physically verify and they will give you score. If you reach to this particular score, you are onboarded or else fail. So ये depend करता है nature, purpose. So as I said, one due diligence will not fit into everybody's need. You have to see the size of the organization, you have to see the purpose of the onboarding, you have to see the stage on which you are onboarded. अगर मैं बात करूं बड़ी कंपनीज के बारे में, ऑयल एंड गैस एंड अदर कंपनीज, व्हाट दे डू, दे ऑनबोर्ड द सप्लायर्स एंड एवरी सेकंड और थर्ड ईयर दे रीअसेस. फॉर एग्जांपल, उन्होंने फर्स्ट ईयर में तो वो सारी रिक्वायरमेंट पूरी की, व्हाट इफ दे स्टॉप्ड डूइंग दैट? सो फॉर कॉन्टिन्यूटी sake, they reassess them, they do due diligence at the end of a set period, either at second year or third year. Largely it is third year. So continuing with that, supplier code of conduct and contractual clause, which we also studied earlier. This is again a methodology of due diligence that आप वो सारी चीजें onboarding से पहले या during the tenure with us you are follow or you will follow. Stakeholder engagement, that we engage with the workers. हम लोग जाएंगे और बात करेंगे, आपको ओवर टाइम मिलता है, आपको ट्रीट अच्छे से किया जाता है, आप किसी यूनियन का पार्ट हो, या आप ग्राउंड लेवल पे जाके कम्युनिटी विच इज अराउंड दैट कंपनी, या प्लांट लोकेशन, अगर कोई कम्युनिटी आप उनसे बात करते हो कि कोई आपका बायोडाइवर्सिटी का लॉस तो नहीं है, या फिर आपको यहाँ पे शोर तो नहीं आता है बहुत तेजी से, या फिर कोई फायर जैसी कोई चीज आपने ऑब्जर्व की, सॉर्ट ऑफ दैट थिंग, ये भी ड्यू डिलिजेंस है। ग्रीवेंस मैकेनिज्म इज अगेन अ ड्यू डिलिजेंस, आपको क्या शिकायत है। तो एक कंपनी में लाइक वी वर डूइंग द सोशल असेसमेंट, सो वहां पे उनका फॉर्मल ग्रीवेंस मैकेनिज्म नहीं था, बट आई सॉ वेरी गुड प्रैक्टिस आउट देयर। दे हैव अ मित्रा कमेटी, सो व्हाट दे डू, हर 15 दिन पे कंपनी के लोग बाहर की कम्युनिटी में दे गो एंड दे आस्क तुमको कोई प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है, पानी आता है, वो कंपनी उस कम्युनिटी को पानी भी देती थी, या तुम्हें कोई तुम्हारे पेड़ तो नहीं कटे इसकी वजह से। तो 15 दिन में हर बार वो कम्युनिटी में जाते थे, उनकी सारी ग्रीवेंसेज रिकॉर्ड करके लाते थे। 15 दिन के बाद दे हैड टू मेक श्योर कि वो सारी ग्रीवेंसेज रिजॉल्व हो जाए, बिकॉज जो कम्युनिटी के लोग हैं दे कांट हैव द फॉर्मल मैकेनिज्म इन प्लेस एंड दे कैन नॉट बी अलाउड टू वॉक इन टू द organization's reception and all. So that was a very very good methodology which I saw. So technology and traceability tools, आपके पास tools हो सकते हैं, आपके पास apps हो सकते हैं जिससे आप उनको assess कर सकते हैं. Last but not the least, training and capacity building session is also a measure of due diligence or a precursor or a pre-step of due diligence where you educate them and then you test. So these are the comprehensive, as per my understanding, which I used, I have observed. There may be other or a combination of these as well. These are the tools, methodologies, ways, and means to do it. Now, coming to a very significant part, आपने समझा कि सस्टेनेबिलिटी जरूरी है, वैल्यू चेन कैसे एम्बेडेड है मेरे पूरे इकोसिस्टम में, कौन कौन से रेगुलेशन ड्राइव करते हैं उनके डिस्क्लोजर्स को, कहाँ से वो रिक्वायरमेंट आ रही है। कई बार रिक्वायरमेंट रेगुलेशन से नहीं आती लेकिन पीयर प्रेशर होता है। If I am an unlisted company which is not falling within 1,000 listed companies, but my peer company is doing something, my suppliers or my vendors will also ask me to do it. My peer company has certain level of ESG rating, I might not have. My company, my value chain partners will urge me to take that rating. So बहुत सारी चीजें फिर पीयर प्रेशर से, या फिर जैसे मैंने बैंकर से बोला कि बैंकर्स आपको अगर, सो देयर इज अ क्लाइंट ऑफ माइन इन मुंबई, so they get a reduction in interest rate basis the GHG reduction they are doing from year on year basis. So ESG has been embedded in the business operation to that extent कि companies को monetary benefits भी मिलने लगा है. So monetary benefit which is a tangible benefit which is seen, लेकिन intangible benefits बहुत हैं. Having a good sustainability report, having a good ESG report. Every benefit will have an incentive for fake disclosures also, right? आपको benefit मिल रहा है, genuine benefit है, please take it. लेकिन उस benefit को attain करने के लिए there should not be any greenwashing. Meaning thereby, what is actually there should be reported, right? We cannot overcommit and underdo. We cannot hide certain things. We cannot exaggerate anything. Therefore, while we understand, and this is more for value chain, because आपके ऑपरेशन, आपके लोग, आपका काम आपके कंट्रोल में है, लेकिन वैल्यू चेन जो upstream, downstream, small, big, unless they are also part of those 1,000 listed companies or they are actually doing responsible sustainability reporting. Barring those, जो कंपनीज, जो कॉर्पोरेट्स, जो वैल्यू चेन पार्टनर्स आपके कहने पे डिस्क्लोजर कर रहे हैं, आपने ड्यू डिलिजेंस भी कर लिया, बट दे आर नॉट अंडर योर कंट्रोल. सो transparency of disclosures, accuracy of disclosures is a must, and importantly for value chain partners, because the entire onus of those disclosures falls on you. So it is for both them also, they have to be responsible to be transparent about the disclosures what they are making, and it is on the company also, whatever disclosures are they making. For example, अगर किसी वैल्यू चेन ने उन्हें बोला है कि उनके इतने जीएचजी एमिशंस हैं, आपको उतने जीएचजी एमिशन आपके स्कोप 3 में ऐड करने पड़ेंगे. जस्ट बिकॉज उनके एडिशन की वजह से आपका पूरा स्कोप 3 का नंबर बढ़ गया है, आप उसको हाइड नहीं कर सकते, आप उसको लीव नहीं कर सकते. और not only here but everywhere across the globe, we try to give rosy pictures in most of the disclosures where we have incentive. So जैसे अभी हमने पढ़ा था कि value chain partners में you have the liberty to cover up to 75%. For example, I'm just giving you a hypothetical situation. I have not seen that. For example, the coverage which I did for 75% had more carbon footprints of more GHG emissions in my account. I chose different vendors to cover 75% with lesser amount of GHG. That is allowed. But it should not be intentional. आपका जो 75% है, SEBI allows you to choose 2% individuality में and can go up to 75%. That should be a systematic mathematical manner to achieve to that 75%, not as a reverse calculation that आपने वो अपने reporting को better बनाने के लिए आपने वो 75% लिया है, because nobody would be able to make up. Therefore, the demand is that we have to be very, very transparent when it comes to accuracy and completeness of the disclosure for value chain partners. So we are left with 17 minutes. We'll try to wrap up in 10 minutes and then we'll have question answers. So what is the importance of transparency? Why it is important to be transparent? Because जो आपकी value chain है, that gives a very, very important information about the company, the product, what the supply chain is, उसका क्या structure है. आपको transparently आपको बताना पड़ेगा कि आपका tier 1 है, tier 2 है, tier 3 है, वो conglomerate है या फिर किस एरिया में वो डील करता है. अगर वो वाटर स्ट्रेस एरिया में भी है, आपको बताना पड़ेगा, आप हाइड नहीं करो. दैट इज व्हाट इज डिमांडेड. आपकी रॉ मटेरियल सोर्सेज क्या है, कहाँ कहाँ से आप परचेज करते हो, उनकी लोकेशंस क्या है, कौन से सप्लायर्स हैं, वो हाई वैल्यू टिकट्स, हाई वैल्यू सप्लायर्स हैं या वल्नरेबल ग्रुप से है, उनका शिपिंग या लॉजिस्टिक स्टेटस क्या है, उनके लेबर और एनवायरमेंटल प्रैक्टिसेस क्या है, उन्होंने प्रोडक्ट सर्टिफिकेशन या डॉक्यूमेंटेशन जो रिक्वायर्ड है वो लिया है या नहीं लिया है, उनकी गवर्नेंस और कंप्लायंस मैकेनिज्म क्या है. ऑल दीज आर डिमांडेड when it comes to transparency. And इससे किसको benefit होता है? It allows the following to access the company's sustainability performance. So इसमें सारे range of आपके stakeholders आ जाएंगे, consumers, investors, and regulators, NGOs and other stakeholders. So companies have to be very, very transparent for their own disclosures and for the value chain. Now, very important question and aspect. I think somebody asked also, what are the challenges in sustainability reporting initiatives for supply chain? So based on, and the next two slides, largely these all slides are based on my practical experience, what I have observed over years now. But these two slides are very, very specific when it actually came to the practical difficulties to me or the people whom I supported to, and how we reversed those and helped them dealing with those situations. So ये जो problem है sustainability reporting या ESG reporting related to value chain, ये मैंने दो part में divide किया है. पहला, जो companies को problem आती है with respect to value chain partners reporting या उनके साथ deal करने में या उनको समझाने में, उनका data लेने में या उनको cost effective बनाने में. Somebody was asking about cost. Yes, that will entail cost, but we can reduce it through alternative measures. और दूसरी तरह की जो challenges हैं वो ये भी आ सकते हैं जो value chain को आते हैं. So मैंने उन्हें बताया कि आप एक system लगाओ, मैंने उन्हें बोला कि आप hire करो लोग, मैंने उनको बताया कि आप एक जगह लो, वहाँ पे एक office बनाओ. कहना आसान है, लेकिन for them it will have cost. For them it will have a requirement or a need to set another level of energy for setting up the ESG ecosystem. कहने से नहीं होगा. So ये जो challenges की जो slides हैं, इनको मैंने दो हिस्सों में बांटा है. One is the challenges which are faced by company with respect to the value chain partners they are dealing with, making them equipped with the ESG initiative. And the other part is जो उन लोगों को challenges आते हैं, they are cognizant of the fact it is good initiative, it is required for continuity with the listed company, etc. But it takes time. So first set is supply chains are actually complex. As I mentioned, I've been dealing with very, very complex supply chain structures for last couple of years, and they took my brain. आपने सप्लाई चेन समझ लिया, रिस्क असेसमेंट कर लिया, मेथडोलॉजी बना ली, चेकलिस्ट बना ली, बट वो सुने तो सही, उनको इंगेज करना, SCP मीन्स जो मैंने शॉर्ट फॉर्म में लिखा है सप्लाई चेन पार्टनर्स, सो जो उनको इंगेज करना है दैट इज वेरी वेरी डिफिकल्ट. नेक्स्ट इज आपने उनको तो इंगेज कर लिया, आपके अपने स्टेक होल्डर्स, सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू स्पोक टू द ओनर ऑफ अ स्मॉल MSME, उसने कहा हाँ 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 हम लोग करेंगे, बट उनके जो स्टेक होल्डर्स है, उनका अकाउंटेंट है, उनका क्वालिटी वाला बंदा है, उनका प्रोक्योरमेंट का है, वो नहीं सुन रहा आपकी. मेरा प्रोक्योरमेंट का जो बंदा है, एंड दीज आर द रियल चैलेंजेस आई एम टेलिंग यू, मेरा जो बंदा है जो उनके बंदे से डील करता है वो नहीं सुन रहा है, दोनों में आपस में नहीं बनती है. These are the real challenges. Next, lack of standardization. मैंने एक चेकलिस्ट बनाई जो मैंने आपसे पहले भी बोला, मेरे बहुत तरह के सप्लाई चेन पार्टनर्स और मुझे ड्यू डिलिजेंस करना है उनका, या उनको मुझे उनसे डॉक्यूमेंटेशन लेना है, या उनसे बात करनी है, उनका ESG का डेटा मुझे अपनी सस्टेनेबिलिटी रिपोर्ट में बनाना है. एक है मेरा सप्लाई चेन में सर्विस प्रोवाइडर और एक है रॉ मटेरियल प्रोवाइडर. मेरा रॉ मटेरियल भी दो तरह का है, ऑटो कंपनी की बात करूं तो एल्यूमिना है या फिर कोई और तरह की चीज है. तो अगर मेरा सर्विस प्रोवाइडर है तो उसके लिए मुझे अलग चेकलिस्ट बनानी पड़ेगी, जो मेरा रॉ मटेरियल प्रोवाइडर है उसके लिए मुझे अलग चेकलिस्ट बनानी पड़ेगी, एंड दैट टू अगर वो डिफरेंट लोकेशंस में डील करते हैं. एज आई सेड, अलग अलग एरिया, अलग अलग जगह की अलग अलग प्रॉब्लम्स होती है, तो आपको अलग अलग चेकलिस्ट बनानी पड़ेगी. तो आज की डेट में मैनुअली अभी तो हम वी आर सेटिंग अप द सिस्टम, सो लैक ऑफ स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन लीड्स टू a challenge, a real life challenge. Next, data availability and connection. अभी मैंने जैसे बताया कि बहुत सारे छोटे वेंडर्स अभी डील कर रहे हैं डेटा अपने ऑपरेशंस के लिए, या उनके पास सिस्टम नहीं है, उनके पास डेटा ही नहीं है तो स्कैटर्ड है तो उन्होंने उसको एक जगह पे कहीं रिपोर्ट नहीं किया है, और है भी तो वो आपको देना नहीं चाहते. सो दैट प्रोसेस इज वेरी वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर अस टू मैनेज विद. एस्टिमेशन एंड असम्पशन. ESG में भी बहुत सारे एस्टिमेशन एंड असम्पशन चलते हैं. द क्लासिक एग्जाम्पल इज स्कोप 3 GHG emissions. बहुत सारे assumptions 15 कैटेगरीज में आपको लगाने पड़ते हैं, कौन सा लेना है कौन सा नहीं लेना, कैसे बाउंड्री सेट करनी है, और जो अभी हमने 75% की बात की तो कौन सा लेना है, कौन से वाले छोड़ने हैं. सो एस्टिमेशन एंड असम्पशन इज अ टफ टास्क टू डील विद. just a minute, 10 मिनट में आ जाए. स्ट्रिक्ट रेगुलेटरी फ्रेमवर्क. सो रेगुलेशन में अगर लिखा है कि आपको ही लेना है, सो आपने अगर BRSR देखा होगा तो या तो वो लीडरशिप इंडिकेटर है, मतलब आपका कंपलसरी, या वो वॉलेंट्री इंडिकेटर है. अगर तो वो वॉलेंट्री है तो इट्स ओके, सॉरी आई टेक माय वर्ड्स बैक. असेंशियल इंडिकेटर है तो कंपलसरी है, लीडरशिप है तो वॉलेंट्री है. तो अगर वो असेंशियल है तो आपको वो करना ही है. वो इंडिकेटर वो कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी नहीं देखेगा या टाइम की सेंसिटिविटी नहीं देखेगा, तो वहां पे फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी नहीं है. अभी 1 BRSR इज एप्लीकेबल टू ऑल, राइट. सो स्ट्रिक्ट रेगुलेटरी कंप्लायंसेस से भी कई बार हम क्या करते हैं कि हम एक मिडवे निकालने की कोशिश भी करते हैं कि हम कुछ रिपोर्ट करें, तो वो नहीं हो पाता है क्योंकि रेगुलेशन मुझे वही देने बोलता है, तो या तो रिपोर्टिंग होती है या नहीं होती. सो वो अभी प्रॉब्लम है, वो चैलेंज है. कॉस्ट एंड रिसोर्स, नीडलेस टू टेल यू, जैसा कि मैंने बोला कि हम करना तो चाहते हैं, लेकिन उसकी मेरी तरफ से, ये कंपनी की साइड से है, कंपनी के पास लोग नहीं है या उनके पास रिसोर्सेज नहीं है उनको ट्रेन करने के लिए. So these were the real life challenges which I faced dealing with people in corporates, जहाँ पे कंपनीज को चैलेंज आता है सप्लाई चेन में डील करने के लिए. अब नेक्स्ट इज अ लॉन्गर लिस्ट जहाँ पे कंपनीज को प्रॉब्लम आती है. उनके पास अवेयरनेस नहीं है, या उनके पास कोई अपॉर्चुनिटीज नहीं है, या फिर उनके पास लिमिटेड एक्सेस है, उनके पास फाइनेंस नहीं है, वो करना चाहते हैं, उनके पास, उनको लगता है कि आज 1 साल हमारा बिजनेस चले, 5 साल का नहीं पता, उनका लॉन्ग टर्म वैल्यू क्रिएशन मेथडोलॉजी मेथड नहीं होता है, माइंडसेट नहीं होता है, और उनके पास स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजीज. यहाँ मैंने ये MSME इसलिए लिखा था क्योंकि जो नॉन MSMEs है उनके पास फिर भी एक लेवल पे स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन है. अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड वैल्यू चेन पार्टनर्स है, inadequate focus on health and safety. आप देखोगे आज भी जो छोटे छोटे vendors है, I've seen physically, I've visited them, proper washrooms नहीं है, sanitization process नहीं है और hygiene नहीं है, पानी पीने का साफ नहीं है, limited community engagement is the next one, skill gap है जो आपको चाहिए और जो आपके पास नहीं है, again drive from cost, water and waste management is very poor at certain places, lack of awareness, कई MSMEs को या छोटे corporates को गवर्नमेंट इंसेंटिव्स मिलते हैं लेकिन उनको नहीं पता, they can't access those. नेक्स्ट, लिमिटेड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है उनके पास, वो चाह के भी फर्दर एक्सपेंड नहीं कर सकते, बेशक उनके पास फंडिंग है लेकिन अगर वो एक शेड में बैठे हैं और उसके ऊपर नीचे कुछ नहीं बन सकता तो नहीं बन सकता. लिमिटेड कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस स्ट्रक्चर्स, राइट. सो ये सारे अगेन प्रैक्टिकली सीन ऑब्जर्व प्रॉब्लम्स हैं जो सप्लाई चेन को आते हैं. अगर वो एक्चुअली अपनी जर्नी शुरू करना चाहते हैं, कंपनीज को ड्यू डिलिजेंस में हेल्प करना चाहते हैं, बट दे फेल बिकॉज ऑफ दीज. प्रॉब्लम तो पता है, अब सॉल्यूशंस क्या है उसके लिए. बहुत सारे सॉल्यूशंस हैं जो हमें नहीं पता या हमें पता है लेकिन वी आर सो इंडल्ज्ड, वी मतलब कंपनीज भी और सप्लाई चेन पार्टनर्स भी, हम अपनी डे टू डे चीजों में इतना इंडल्ज होते हैं बिकॉज सो फार आर objective and motive is to earn profit, to sustain operationally. So as I said, sustainability comes in various shades and colors. So अभी तक हम operational sustainability की बात करते हैं लेकिन now we have to switch our mindset from operational sustainability to overall business sustainability. और वो तभी आएगी जब हम फाइनेंशियल इंडिकेटर से ऊपर निकल के नॉन फाइनेंशियल इंडिकेटर पर भी सोचेंगे. वो पहला वाला भी इंपॉर्टेंट है बट दूसरा वाला भी इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो व्हाट आर द प्रैक्टिकल सॉल्यूशंस अवेलेबल. अगर आप आज की डेट में भी देखते हैं तो जो भी छोटे सप्लायर, मिड टीयर सप्लायर्स हैं, वो कहीं ना कहीं कोई ना कोई कंपलसरी रेगुलेशंस फॉलो करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर मैं इन्वायरमेंटल रेगुलेशन की बात करती हूँ और एक कंपनी को ईंटों का भट्टा होता है वो लगाना होता है तो उनको एनवायरमेंटल क्लियरेंसेस चाहिए होते हैं, तो वो कर रहे हैं. सिमिलरली सोशल रेगुलेशन में लेबर लॉ टू सम एक्सटेंट, फैक्ट्रीज एक्ट में अगर कोई फैटेलिटी हो जाती है उनको रिपोर्ट करना पड़ता है. और हम जो इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न भरते हैं, जीएसटी भरते हैं, या अपना अगर वो कंपनी है एलएलपी है तो एमसीओ को रिपोर्टिंग करती है, लिस्टेड है तो स्टॉक एक्सचेंजेस को भी करती है, या हम एथिकली चाहते हैं कि बच्चे वहां पे हायर ना हो. तो पहले हमें बैठ के ये देखना पड़ेगा कि हम कर क्या क्या रहे हैं. एंड ट्रस्ट मी, 20-30% चीजें ऑलरेडी कंपनीज या छोटे वेंडर्स या सप्लाई चेन कर रहे होते हैं लेकिन उनको पता नहीं होता या वो उस चीज को ठीक से रिकॉर्ड या रिपोर्ट नहीं करते. सो द फर्स्ट स्टेप इज, जो आप अपनी एग्जिस्टिंग कंप्लायंसेस, आपसे मतलब जो भी वैल्यू चेन पार्टनर्स है, वॉट एवर दे आर डूइंग, एंड इफ यू आर हेल्पिंग देम बिल्ड देयर ESG reports and all, just identify what are required, what you have been doing, what is the delta, and you will find you are a little sorted. अपने आप को कैसे मदद कर सकते हैं उन्होंने, if they are equipped to read sustainability reports, they can see what are the good practices, they can start preparing the required documentation, they can observe what others are doing, they can technically understand the concept. Reading, understanding is a must, उसका कोई shortcut नहीं है, neither for me nor for you nor for others. If they have applied something and which is the key for us also, we have to update with time. Last but not the least, अगर आप कोई कुछ नहीं कर सकते हो, I've learned this hard time, घर पे बाहर, if you can't do it alone, seek help. It not always a paid help, it can be a simple help from a colleague. Seek help from your peers, seek help from your juniors, seek help from your senior, or there is a lot in the market which you can see, observe and apply. बहुत सारे एरियाज है जहाँ पे वो एक्सटर्नल हेल्प ले सकते हैं, जैसे सस्टेनेबिलिटी एश्योरेंस उनको अगर चाहिए, या सस्टेनेबिलिटी रोड मैप उनको क्रिएट करना है. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द कॉस्ट एंड द बजट. उनको अगर BRSR, TCFD बनाने का मैंडेट आया है तो दे कैन टेक हेल्प. सस्टेनेबल फाइनेंस, रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट, गवर्नेंस, लाइफ साइकिल असेसमेंट, ESG accounting, low carbon strategy, last but not the least, ESG due diligence, etc. So if the companies or MSMEs or anybody in the entire value chain system is not equipped to do something, it's the time to seek help externally, and it depends on the need, requirement and the budget they have. कौन से ऐसे इजी टारगेट हैं, लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट्स हैं, जो हमने पहला स्टेप किया था कि हमने समझा था ऑलरेडी वो क्या कर रहे हैं, फिर उसके बाद क्या करना है, और उस क्या करना में से आप क्या कर सकते हो फर्स्ट ईयर में, सेकेंड ईयर में, विच आर द लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट्स. So they can switch to normal energy efficient appliances. This will help them reduce the cost. Initially, thoda sa capital investment hoga, but that will give you the long term benefit. Adhering to labor laws, which is the need and the requirement also. Waste management and recycling practice. They should reduce waste. And trust me, ये बहुत cost save करता है. आपके footprints, waste footprints हो गए या water footprints etc. ये काफी चीजें वो save करता है. Biodiversity and conservation and tree plantation, they can do it, they can do the drive. Community engagement is something which will not take much of the efforts and cost, but it will bring brand value, it will bring visibility, it will actually give you an ethical satisfaction. Digitization to the extent possible, employee engagement and well-being measures internally they can take. Last but not the least, sensitizing employees on ESG principles. Awareness is a must. So we took very simple steps in some of the corporates with low cost or no cost, and that did wonders. So it's just to sit and think over, and it will actually give results. Sustainability report, if company prepares, will definitely help them in multiple ways. One is long-term value creation. It will bring growth, operational efficiencies, market access, regulatory compliances. Brand value is at the supreme place, which will be brought with every single initiative of your ESG. So there are certain corporates who've been helped. They have admitted that they got a lot of brand value with the voluntary sustainability report, new clients, new leads. It took us some bit of efforts to start building it, but एक बार उन्होंने बनाया तो उनकी कॉस्ट भी कम हुई, उनको बैंक से लोन भी मिला, उनकी रेपुटेशन भी बनी, उनको एज मिला कॉम्पिटिटर्स के ऊपर, और डेफिनेटली उस सस्टेनेबिलिटी रिपोर्ट ने विजिबिलिटी लाई मार्केट के लिए, और उनकी लॉन्ग टर्म value creation they could create. It really brings. I'm not telling you that theoretically. I have observed it. I've seen it, people saying it. Somebody asked technologies. So इसमें जितने सारे टूल लिखे हैं, आप उससे वो नाम और उनकी methodology मत पूछना. This is based on my research. So there are multiple ways and means which can help you automate your technology to do ESG. So बहुत सारी चीजें आपने सुनी होंगी, मैंने भी सुनी है, बहुत सारी चीजें मैंने भी नहीं सुनी है. जैसे ESG रिस्क एंड असेसमेंट की मैं बात करूं तो इकोवेडेस, सस्टेनालिस्ट आपने सुना होगा. ये और भी 3 प्लेटफॉर्म है जो आपको रेटिंग और टूल्स देते हैं. सो ये आपका एफर्ट बचाता है क्योंकि स्टैंडर्डाइज चेकलिस्ट होती है. सो उन कंपनीज के लिए जिनके वैल्यू चेन यूनिफॉर्म होते हैं, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मिल्क सप्लायर्स. सो मिल्क तो मिल्क है, उसमें थोड़ा बहुत वेराइटी होगा, एरिया का डिफरेंस हो सकता है, टाइप ऑफ मिल्क का डिफरेंस हो सकता है, बट लार्जली वेंडर्स आर द सेम. उस तरह के लोगों के लिए यू कैन हैव अ यूनिफॉर्म चेकलिस्ट जो इन प्लेटफॉर्म से आप काम कर सकते हो. बहुत सारे टूल प्रोवाइडर्स हैं मार्केट में जो आपको ऑडिट टूल्स, असेसमेंट टूल्स और मेथडोलॉजीज आपको प्रोवाइड करते हैं. प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं, एआई और एनालिटिक प्लेटफॉर्म है. आपको बहुत सारे वेंडर्स मिलेंगे जो आप अगर टूल भी नहीं डेवलप करना चाहते तो स्प्रेडशीट वो आपके लिए मैक्रोज लगा के आपके लिए स्प्रेडशीट डेवलप कर सकते हैं. तो this is an enabler for companies also and for vendors also. And again, it depends upon the budget you have, the requirement you have, the time you have. Documentation tool होते हैं, collaboration, capacity building sessions होते हैं, जैसे आप कहीं पे जा सकते हो और आप वहाँ पे seminars attend करके you can have peers, you can take help, you can give help, etc. etc. ब्लॉकचेन से रिलेटेड बहुत स्पेसिफिक टूल्स भी आते हैं जो डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द रिक्वायरमेंट एंड बजट. इफ यू आस्क मी, आई हैव नॉट हर्ड एंड वर्कड ऑन इट, बट देयर आर. सो जब किसी को जरूरत होती है, दे स्टार्ट एक्सप्लोरिंग, दे विल डेफिनेटली गेट द लाइट. This is the last segment of my presentation. I'm almost on time, and this is the most favorite topic of mine, how I can be part of the sustainability, because sustainability is not anymore a job or a profession to me. It's my passion. I've been studying, reading, doing multiple type of projects for last 23 years. So वो एक saturation आ गया है काम करते हुए. I really want to give back to the society using my own tools, which is nothing but my understanding, and that's where I want to do big, and therefore I indulge myself into educational project. I indulge myself into big corporate reporting, training them, so that if you reach out to a big group, it's a chain reaction, right? So you start with a group, that group is trained, their employees are trained, their family members are trained, their group companies are trained, and that's a journey what I want to take up. So this is my favorite part, how we can help the clients, or as a chartered accountant, what are our opportunities. So we can do the risk assessment identification for their value chain, materiality assessment. We can also do due diligence, we can also assist them, but you can only pursue this when you have the equipments with you, which is nothing but your knowledge, your certifications, your energy to work with them, to understand, to help them. You can't, because everybody is now have something or the other, they know their subject. So just start with reading, studying, and then you'll be able to do it. Policy and process control integration is something you can help with. uh, then reporting and assurance, this is the main bucket for us, where I'm also most comfortable. So I've done GHG reporting, I've done BRSR, GRIT, CFD, CDP, everything. So that's my forte. That's something which I can say I know something. Trust me, I've been reading and studying for years now. Still I feel अभी तो बहुत कुछ पढ़ना है, अभी तो बहुत कुछ करना है. So it's really interesting to know, to consolidate financial, non-financial understanding, and a good opportunity for chartered accountants. We can be part of the advisory team for the clients. We can train them. We can only train them if we know something. So we have to be, good with that. Technology and tool enablement. We can help build the tools. We can provide them the tools, or we can be the enabler through other tool providers. Ethical leadership and governance. We can design and implement policies for companies, integrate the policies or the process in their ecosystem or in the functions, and recommend them the measures for improvisation. So that's it from my side. I am on time. Sorry, I overspilled by 3 minutes. So I'm more than happy to address if you have any queries. Okay, am I allowed to have 5 more minutes?
Yes, ma'am. Only one questions. Are there industry recognized tools, scorecard, or third-party audit that company are using to conduct or outsource due diligence on suppliers?
Yeah, so I showed you EcoVadis and others. So that slide, I'll be sharing the slide also. So there are EcoVadis, Sustainalyst, CDP. These are all methodologies and well recognized tools or rating systems. SEBI has also recently added a SEBI listing for listed companies. So if that listed company is one of your value chain partners, and you really want them to have that rating, for that listed company to have, you can ask them to get that rating. Yes, there are.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. There is no more questions.
Okay.
Now, vote of thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Sustainability Reporting Standard Board of ICAI, I extend my sincere gratitude to each of you for joining us today for insightful webinar on sustainable supply chain due diligence and transparency. Your active engagement and thoughtful questions have truly enriched today's discussion, demonstrating our shared commitment to the complexity of sustainable. Sarika Gosain for sharing invaluable insights into the critical aspect of sustainable supply chain due diligence. Your expertise there has illuminated the importance of transparency and accountability in driving sustainable business practice forward. Today's session has significantly deep in our understanding of how robust due diligence practice can enrich transparency and sustainability across supply chain. It clear address to these standards is pivotal in shaping ethical business conduct in rapidly changing global landscape. We invite all participants to join us for our next webinar scheduled for Thursday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., where we will continue to explore emerging topic in sustainability reporting and best practices. Once again, thank you all for your active engagement and insightful contribution. We look forward to your continued participation in our ongoing invite initiative as we collectively strive towards a more sustainable and restrictive future.
Thank you so much, SRSB, and everybody who was part of this webinar organizing this. I hope I could do justice to the time and the topic which was given to me. Thank you so much, and have a nice weekend after tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Tech team, we can have a closure.